Hi guys, welcome to lesson 4 and 5. Yes, surprising all in one, and that's because they really belong together. The two aspects we are looking at today are narrative reads in a linear fashion using the auspicious narrative and the inauspicious narrative. We'll look at the auspicious first, then the inauspicious, and then we'll put them both together to have a look at what the Kipper cards are saying about our life in general. Let's get that overhead on. I brought some different decks to play today, but we still have our basics of the Kipper origins. So we spoke this week about the inauspicious placement and the auspicious placement. Remember, we said the auspicious placement is always ahead in the line of sight of our querent. Anything that they can see in front of them is considered an auspicious narrative. An auspicious narrative means that it is an easier ride than the inauspicious that's behind their back. I always put it similar to, imagine you're going to work for the day, you are traveling through traffic. If you are going to get all green lights on the way to work and an easy ride to work, they will land in the auspicious placements. If, on the other hand, you meet lots of red lights, you end up late for work, or there's just a lot of traffic, that journey would show in an inauspicious placement behind your back. So auspicious means fortunate ahead of them and unfortunate behind their back. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be absolutely awful, the cards behind their back, because we may have some positive ones in there. So often it just shows a situation that is a little bit more troublesome than if it went in front of your face. So let's have a look at the other decks we have out to play today. We have my Kipper deck, which is, they're all my Kipper decks. But this is the first one I released, and I'm trying to look for the male figure in it. There it is. And it is in line with the 1890s version of the Kipper card, the original directional qualities. We then have the Rainbow Kipper, which is also in the 1890s directional qualities, created by myself and Stephen Bright, published with RedFeather. In fact, you can see it right here. If you want to have a look at that deck, there is a book that I've written in there as well that contains the directional qualities that you need for your Kipper deck. It's also what I loved about creating the Rainbow Kipper with Stephen Bright, is that the cards are color coded. So as you go through your Kipper studies further, you'll find there are different types of cards within the Kipper deck. Some show us movement, some we call connector cards, some show us a cause and effect, and they're color coded within the Rainbow Kipper to make that an easy read. The other deck we have out to play is the Siren Song Kipper, which comes with the Siren Song Lenormand as well, by myself and Carrie Paris. Again, there's a book in there detailing the directional qualities. So we are going to look, these, the Siren Song is actually in the early 20th century directions. So you have every kind of directional quality that you need to read with your Kipper deck. So I'll move those to the side for now. And we'll do readings with each one just to see what information they bring out for our day. We'll start with this deck. And I'll take me out. This is my significator, main character 2. So the cards ahead of her would be, to the left-hand side, would be her auspicious reading. And the cards to the right-hand side would be her inauspicious meaning, the unfortunate or more difficult side of life. So we set our intention for whatever question you want to ask. And we're going to start with the auspicious read. The auspicious read always begins with the first card ahead of your querent. And the first card has the greatest influence over the querent in that day or that situation that you are looking at. I didn't set a question for this spread, so we're just random in the questioning, but the first card always has that heightened meaning with regards to the querent. It's the one that will have the biggest impact on their situation. We then read narratively using the auspicious meanings for the cards that show. So if this were a day, for example, this card would be the overall theme of the day, but it would also speak about the first thing that happens in the day, the second thing that happens, and then the third. So morning, noon, and night. And the first card that we have is great outcome in love, good outcome. It is a card that is absolutely loving, and in that position, touching the querent, it shows that the day as a whole is going to be a beautiful one. It's one that she's really going to enjoy and really get everything done that she wants to get done, because it is the good outcome card. So starting the day off on a positive note, moving to lunchtime, and good gent is in the mix. Remember, we said with our people card, if they look eye to eye, then it is an auspicious situation. It is a situation at which these two people are happy with one another. And especially sharing that good outcome, we can see that there is really a positive outcome with an older gentleman within the day. Towards lunchtime, he's going to come in, and the querent's going to be very happy with that. Let's see this last card, which is auspicious to our querent, yet it sits behind his back, so would be inauspicious to him. We have rich gent. And it's actually quite interesting, this. I didn't set an intention, but it would fit my day perfectly. We have a gentleman who would be classed as good gent, who owns a mechanic shop next to us. My eldest son's car has tires that are slowly puncturing, and he told us he would come this afternoon and sort it out. Well, you can see that he absolutely is. And the interesting thing with Rich Gent is that his son's actually working with him at the moment. And his son is the one that did it last time, but it looks on this occasion that the father's going to be the one that sorts this issue out with the tires, and I will be speaking to his son naturally, with Rich Gent being in there, but the father's taking on that main role as the son sits behind his back. Simple as that. I won't move on to the inauspicious yet. We'll keep on our auspicious cards, but we'll run with our main character one. So his auspicious is in this direction, looking in his face. And you'll see in all your Kipper decks, your main character one, main character two are very clear on the directional qualities. So the first thing in main character one's day is house. So is either going to spend a lot of his time at home in the morning, or it's going to be a very successful morning, because that's our alternative meaning for the house card. But we'll see in these two whether any work-related cards come up for that successful interpretation, or whether it is more of a homely day. So morning, lunch. Ooh, great fortune. Looks like he's going to be super happy in the afternoon. He has great fortune coming in at lunchtime. And in the evening, a dreamy day. So there's no other work cards coming up here. So it will be a day at home that makes him very happy. He's very jubilant at lunchtime. And in an evening, maybe just dreaming a little bit of what comes tomorrow, expecting the day ahead at the end of the day. So we'll have a look at main character 1 now in the rainbow kipper. He's facing right. So we do our auspicious from the right hand side. The card stock on this deck is awesome, by the way. If you want a good shuffling deck, the card stock on the rainbow kipper is perfect for it. 1, 2, and 3. So the first card that's going to be the greatest, and I'm actually hoping we get some negative cards at some stage in a positive placement so we can see how we deal with them. He's got good lady. So the first thing in his day is good lady. So there is a presence in his day immediately from the start of the day. She has these two things behind her back, but they are auspicious to him. So this would suggest something the good lady is struggling with that she is bringing forth for main character to try and help out with. Behind her back is prison. So prison is our card for sudden accidents, sudden information coming out, also a very isolating card if you think of going into prison. But our good lady is struggling perhaps with information that's come to light that she is bringing to main character 1 to deal with. He doesn't see it as an issue because it's going straight forward from him. And what else is she struggling with? Win loss. It could be that she hasn't been paid on time, for example, and she's going to main character 1 for that help. Him, as it's his auspicious day, and this is a negative card. The prison is a negative card. It takes on its heaviest negativity because it's behind her back in an inauspicious placement. But to him, that's easy peasy lemon squeezy. You know, she's just bringing this information to him. He can find it easy to deal with. So he's going to be dealing with a lady that comes to him during the day, finding out some bad news regarding finances that should have been coming in to her, and she's bringing it to the doorstep of main character 1. Let's have a look at main character 2 in the Kipper deck. Rainbow Kipper. She's facing left, so her auspicious is in front of her face. Let's see what the main card is for her. Court official. Court official is a negative card, and it sits right in front of her face. It is one of the cards that we call a connector card in Kipper, and each connector card has 2 people on it, and they draw the cards either side into that narrative. So we know that main character 2 has been drawn into an official process. This card behind her back, connecting is change. So there is an official process that requires changes. And change is moving into expectation. And as you see, expectation looks straight back at her. So this is something that is expected of her. There's an official process she needs to go through, changes are required, and it comes back to her in that expectation. So she is expected to create these changes within this document or facilitate that. Let's have a look at the siren song. And then we'll move on to the inauspicious narrative. Our main siren, main character 1, looks to the left. I'll give these a shuffle because I haven't yet. So he has 3 cards ahead of him. The main card that's going to speak about his day is number 3, state of marriage. So there are commitments. He has commitments first thing in the morning. We can have a see what the state of this is. Another connector card. We can see what the state of that connection is by that 3rd card that will be dragged into state of marriage. And we have his thoughts. So he's going to be pulled into this state of marriage, this commitment, and is going to require planning. So unless it's a romance read that you're doing and his thoughts is that romantic card and he's having amazing thoughts on marriage, but on this occasion, we'll see what this 3rd card is. Coffin, fatality, endings. He is going to be forced into his commitments first thing in the morning, be doing some planning, but then probably sack it off with that fatality card coming in at the end. It is in a positive position, which is why I say sack it off rather than somebody getting ill or somebody dying, for example. We're in an auspicious placement, so it eases the fatality that's actually hitting. It's just going to sack it off at the end of the day, probably finish early for the day. So now let's have a look at these inauspicious placements. Inauspicious placements become more troublesome. So your cards become more troublesome. As always, the card that touches the querent, this will be the most difficult. So this situation that you're seeing here will be the most difficult for your querent. But if you are reading in a time scale, so the beginning of the day, for example, you're looking at beginning, middle, and end. You're looking in the direction of your querent. But let's have a look at the most difficult situation for our querent. Good gent. He is not going to be getting on with somebody else, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be at home. He is not seeing eye to eye with good gent, and good gent in a negative place can be bringing negative news forth, depending whether these are positive or negative cards. We have theft. So we do have a negative card in the mix, and another one. Oh, good outcome. Okay, so the major thing he's going to struggle with is this gentleman in the day. But we're actually starting out quite well. We're starting out with good outcome, albeit it won't be as positive as what he's hoping for because it's sat behind his back. So the things start out quite well, but then he suddenly feels like he has been robbed. That good outcome has been taken away from him by a good gent. So in his narrative of the day, he's really going to struggle with an older gentleman who actually is really taking his joy away. He is stealing the good outcome, maybe stopping him from doing what he wants to do. Have a look at the inauspicious read for our Siren 2. She's facing right, so her inauspicious cards would sit behind her back. Again, the most inauspicious would be here. And we have Mediator, which is the court official card. So number 30, the court official card sitting behind her back means she's struggling with processes. She's struggling to get through what she needs to get through that is of an official nature. And let's see, this is a connector card that brings Rich Gent into the mix. So she's also struggling with Rich Gent, but mainly it's that process. And Good Lady in the mix too. So there are two people, discussions perhaps, important meetings perhaps with two people that she actually will struggle with. So it starts with Good Lady, Rich Gent joins, and they get into this negotiation part, maybe even a little bit of arguments between them that she really struggles with. So what we're going to do now is look at both ends. So we're going to look at the inauspicious and the auspicious in one reading. We take our rainbow kipper out. Whoops. And you can lay in any fashion you like. I simply lay from the left behind his back. So I lay the inauspicious first, followed by the auspicious. The reason I do that is because in a grand tableau, when you start reading the 36 cards, this row where your significator sits is called the line of sight. It shows the happenings in your querent's life, the actual things that will happen to them. So we start at a time scale from this end and run through to the furthest time scale. Sorry. So if you were talking about a week, for example, you would start the week on Monday and you would end the week on Sunday. If it's a day, again, you'd start the day here and you would end your evening at the right-hand side for a significator facing right. So narratively, the time scale runs in that direction. Kipper's rather special in that it has directional cues that will send you back and forth and in different directions. But for today, we're just doing that linear read from start to finish with the two cards that are hitting our querent being the most difficult and the most focus or on the auspicious side. So if we turn all our cards over, we have Journey, Unexpected Money, and Dishonesty behind his back. So the thing he'll struggle with the most is dishonesty, wrongness, somebody doing him wrong or wrongness he will struggle with the most. His focus card is his thoughts. So that will have that heightened interpretation. Rich Gent and Gift. As you see from the coloring, we have different types of cards in the mix. The green cards are our people cards. The blue cards are what we call movement cards in Kipper. And like I say, they have a really unique ability within the Kipper cards to actually define the movement that you are reading with. Gift, for example, you may add a card above and a card below to find out what that offer is, what that gift is that's coming into the querent. The journey would take you from the cards beneath up to the cards above, taking a different direction. But again, we're just dealing with the linear read. Dishonesty, the yellow cards in the Rainbow Kipper are the cause and effect cards. So the ones where we can see the cause of the dishonesty and the effect of the dishonesty. And then the red cards are what we call stop cards. They put a punctuation in our read. Obviously, that's a lot of information. You don't need to do that when you first start reading Kipper. If you do want more details, get a deck that has a book within it, or feel free to buy my book, The Card Geek's Guide to Kipper. I'm not here to sell, but if you do want to go into the directional qualities, it's really useful. So main character 1, we know he's going to struggle most with something wrong within his day. And he's going to be focusing on the plans here with our His Thoughts card. There are no other love cards in the mix to suggest this is romantic in any way. So we're looking more at plans than we are at romantic thoughts. So we know that's the major theme of the day, but we read our narrative then starting with journey. And remember, these cards will be treated in their negative sense. Well, not negative, but more challenging sense. Unexpected money is a positive card. It speaks of money coming in, or it speaks of sudden windfalls. Suddenly, everything is awesome. It's also our karmic card of beautiful karmic payback. However, it's behind his back. So there will be some negativity to it, to that surprise. It will still be a surprise. It will still be of a slightly positive nature with it being a positive card, but it will be challenging to him. So if we look at the dishonesty card, just to give us our hints on what we're looking at, the dishonesty card touches unexpected money. So there's a surprise that he doesn't think is right with dishonesty in the mix. And it's related to that first timescale of a journey. So maybe perhaps he's traveling in the morning, has an influx of positivity, but then struggles with it not being right. Could be a bus fare, suddenly, getting a refund, but then finding out it's not right. There's something wrong with that trip, or there's something wrong with the money that is related to that trip. On a positive note, or on an easy note, he will be able to plan well. He will be determined to get where he wants to be with Rich Gent, and he will receive something. A positive gift is always positive. He will receive something positively in. Again, if you're doing your directional cues, you would lay a card above and below to find out exactly what that gift is. But as we're just doing linear, I will leave it as it is. So on the whole, he's traveling today. There are positive aspects to that travel, and there are negative aspects to that travel. On the negative side, he's really going to struggle with something that comes up regarding the route that should be a good thing. It may come early, for example, but he's like, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And then he moves on and say, well, I need to plan, and planning I can do, and planning is easy in that position. I am determined, and I will make it go forth as it should go forth, and I will be pleasantly surprised by the end of the day. Let's do a main character 2 facing in the opposite direction. And as you see, I laid it differently that time. But the narrative is still from that right-hand side through. Beginning of day, end of day. Inauspicious, auspicious. Majorly difficult, majorly focused. Let's have a look at those inauspicious cards. Court, living room, and military person. We have 2 really official cards there. With court and military person, and living room is that immediate, coming in now, for good or bad, and it's sat in a bad position with 2 negative cards. Well, court isn't a negative card in the whole, but they both have their inauspicious meanings coming forth in that position, and with them 2 being really they're considered legal cards, the court and the military person, really causing issues in her day. On the positive side, we actually have a negative card, sad news. And that will be related to this. She's finding it easy to deal with the news when it first comes in, but gloomy thoughts after that, and fatality after that. So she has 3 challenging cards, but in an easy position. This shows us that this day is going to be more difficult than usual. Even the auspicious cards are of a negative nature. She will deal with these parts well, even though they are challenging, but she will really struggle with the right-hand side. And what's interesting is we have 3 red cards on the right and 3 cause and effect yellow cards on the left. The cards that are in red are called our stop cards. Like I say, they end our punctuation. With them all being grouped together, this is a very stuck situation. This is a situation that isn't moving. It's come to her table and it isn't moving anytime soon. With the cards on the left-hand side in that auspicious, meaning all being cause and effect, we know that this is a process that's going to carry on longer than the day. If we had a stop card here, we would know that by the end of the day, this situation was sorted. But with it being those cause and effect cards, we know that this is going to go on for a lot longer than the day that she is looking at here. So let's see what's going to happen. Court speaks of fairness, it's like your justice card. Decisions are happening that are out of your control. With it sat in an inauspicious position, it means those decisions are going to fall against her. So she's not going to think they're fair, or the actual decision is going to be falling against her. And it's an official situation, especially with these 2 cards in the mix. So she's suddenly going to find out about a decision by probably a uniform wearing official that has fallen against her. It hasn't fallen in her favor, it's fallen against her. And this is really bad news to her that sends her into a spiral of gloomy thoughts and fatality at the end. Is a concerning card because we have 2 concerning cards in front of her, not meaning death, not meaning illness, but meaning that the decisions and the process means to her an ending. So something has been taken away, or something has been ended, or will be, sorry, in the future, will be ended for her, that brings a great deal of struggles to the mix. So if you want to look how the day will pan out, we start off with military person. So we start off with perhaps a person in a council office or something along those lines. Somebody, or even a policeman could be military person, suddenly turning up with a living room and making known that that's whatever official decisions have been made have fallen against her, which is incredibly bad news to her, sends her into a spiral of gloomy thoughts and into that ending of fatality. There is no other way forward for her. So it's good that we see how the negatives apply in the positive zone. It means that, yes, it's still going to be a horrible situation, but she's going to deal with this better than she's going to deal with the actual information from the decision that has been made. So there you have it. Lessons 4 and 5 with your Kipper deck. If you would like to learn more, if you'd like to learn the directional qualities, etc., like I say, I have my book. I also have a lot of courses at the World Divination Association. They're currently, for this course, on 40% off, so nearly half price, and they're already priced extremely reasonably. So if you would like to benefit from the 40% off, all you have to do is add a coupon code at checkout. Go to worlddivination.com, click on online courses, search for Kipper. You will get lots of Kipper. We've got over 200 courses in total. But there's lots of Kipper courses within there. You have to add the coupon 40FORYOU. 40 for you. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you see, or I see you in our groups practicing your Kipper spreads. You are always welcome to tag me in on social media. I love to share people's spreads as well. So if you pull them on Instagram, make sure you tag me in because I will share them to my story. Have a lovely rest of the day and I'll see you in the groups.